Food bloggers, hi, how are you today? Thank you so much for tuning in to the Eat Blog Talk podcast. This is the place for food bloggers to get information and inspiration to accelerate your blog's growth and ultimately help you to achieve your freedom, whether that's financial, personal, or professional. I'm Megan Porta. I have been a food blogger for 13 years, so I understand how isolating food blogging can be. I'm on a mission to motivate, inspire, and most importantly, let each and every food blogger, including you, know that you are heard and supported. You are going to want to download our bonus supercut that gives you all the information you need to grow your Instagram account. Go to eatblogtalk.com/Insta growth to download today. Does sponsored work feel scary to you? Maybe it feels really intimidating, like you don't know how to approach brands, you don't know how to price yourself, you don't know how to further a connection with the humans behind the brands. If this sounds like you are going to love this episode with Justin Moore from Creator Wizard. Inside the episode, he talks through some strategies from a recent book that he's publishing about how to go about this as a food content creator. He talks through his sponsorship wheel framework, which goes from pitching all the way to providing analytics at the end. He talks about a lot of myths, like you need a huge audience in order to be able to work with brands. Not true, by the way. And he also touches on that whole free stuff trap, which a lot of brands offer content creators. They offer free product in exchange for promoting their content. This is a really good episode if you are looking to diversify your revenue streams in 2025. I hope you love it. It is episode number 639. Maybe you are eager to join one of the Eat Blog Talk mastermind groups, but not quite ready to make the full investment. The Eat Blog Talk accountability group could be the perfect solution for you. For just $34 a month, you will be part of a supportive community that offers weekly accountability check-ins, a private Slack channel, live productivity sessions, and monthly Zoom calls with fellow bloggers and me, Megan Porta. We are here to help you stay on track, stay motivated, and connected as you build your brand and work towards your big blogging goals. If you are ready to move forward without the pressure of a huge commitment, visit eatblogtalk.com/focus and claim your spot today. Justin Moore is a sponsorship coach, author, and the founder of Creator Wizard, a school and community that teaches you how to find and negotiate your dream brand partnerships so that you stop leaving thousands on the table. His latest book, Sponsor Magnet, offers a succinct distillation of his ideas and frameworks for securing successful brand collaborations. Along with his wife, April, he has been a full-time creator since 2014, and he has personally made over $5 million working with brands. He also ran an influencer marketing agency for 7 years that helped other creators earn millions more. Justin brings a very unique perspective because not only has he been a creator in the trenches doing sponsorships for years, but by running an ad agency, he has insider knowledge behind how big brands choose which influencers to partner with and why they pass on others. Justin's mission is to enable creators big and small to land 1 million paid brand partnerships by 2032. Justin, welcome back. It's been a few years, but so happy to have you back.
Hey, Megan. Thrilled to be here.
Yes, so excited to chat with you. You have a new book coming out very soon. I'm so excited to learn about it. I'm going to ask you that and a bunch of other great things about sponsorships. But before we get into that, do you have another fun fact to share?
All right. My fun fact is that I was in a screamo band in high school, Megan.
Okay,
yeah.
what is
And
that?
we had, so it's like, kind of like metal, hardcore. You ever heard, I was a singer, but we had a separate screamer. So it was pretty intense, I must say. And I posted a thing on Twitter a couple days ago, and I was like, my first mic was not for podcasting, and it was like a picture of like my band like screaming.
Oh my gosh! Okay, so are you still into that sort of music, or
that is what when I work? Literally, I was just listening to metal like two minutes before coming onto this podcast. That's that's my deep focus. My deep focus music is metal. Yeah.
Huh. See, I have a heavy metal gene in me as well. When I was in high school, I don't know if it was quite the screamer type of metal, but I loved me some good Metallica and
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
some good
That's
stuff.
good. That's good. That's classic, like classic metal for sure.
Classic metal. Yep.
Yeah. I would say, okay, so to clarify, death metal, that's really what I listen to.
Okay. Yeah. Death metal is a little bit different than classic metal, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Do you feel like it helps you release, like let out angst of some sort?
I don't consider myself an angsty person at all, but
Maybe that's why.
I used to have this thing where I would just like roll the windows down when I first got my car when I was like a teenager, and I would just listen to metal at the top, like super loud. And I thought it was so cool. And so I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to carry that over into my adult life. I don't know.
I love it. That's awesome. We should end the episode with a little death metal.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Totally. Please do. Yes. How about I send you one of my tracks and we can use that?
Oh my gosh.
We'll use that. Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
We totally will. That's so great to learn that about you. And I just learned you live in Minnesota, which is weird. I don't run into many Minnesotans randomly like that. So welcome to the state.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Coming from California, it's definitely been a shock, but it's been great.
If you need counseling as the winter goes on, just let me know.
My mom said I just need to get the blue light, just like put it on my desk so I don't get the winter blues.
Right. Yes, for sure. All right. Well, let's talk about you and the awesome stuff that you're creating. So first of all, I'd love for you to tell my listeners about Creator Wizard.
Sure. So a couple of years ago, I started this business educating creators all around the process of sponsorship strategy. And this actually came from 15 years of experience that my wife and I have been on the internet. My wife started her first YouTube channel in 2009. So way back in the day, right around when the partner program was starting. It was actually application only. For those who are OGs, remember this. Like it wasn't like you just hit this criteria. No, you have to submit an application to be approved to be like an AdSense partner. And so, and fun fact, my wife got rejected 3 times before she got in. So it was like a badge of honor to actually get accepted in the early days. Yeah. But back in the beginning, this was just a hobby. It was never something where it was like, oh, we're going to make a bunch of money, creating content on the internet. That really wasn't a thing. We didn't know anyone who was making money on the internet. And so for my wife, it was like just trying to find like-minded people who were into skincare and cosmetics and beauty. And that was really what, something that she had a passion around. And so she started, making YouTube videos, and brands started reaching out pretty early on, but it wasn't offering money. It was like, hey, we'll give you this free thing. And she was stoked. She was like, yes. We were like in our early 20s, just out of school, no money. And so, makeup is expensive, as you probably know. And she was like, yeah, $30 hair curler, please send it over. And so that was for years. That was just, she was stoked, like getting a bunch of free stuff. And then by about 2010, I started going to business school at night. And so I started taking these classes around, marketing and advertising and negotiating and things like that. And the gears kind of started turning. And I would see all these comments on her posts where it was like, oh, April, thanks so much for telling me about this. I just went out and bought it. Or, I just went to their website. Never heard of this brand. I just picked it up. And I told April, I was like, I feel like you're getting the short end of the stick here. Like a free $30 hair curler, I don't think is providing the adequate value that you're delivering to these brands. And so I said, how about the next brand? Ask them if they have a budget to collaborate with you. And she's like, there's no way any brand is going to be willing to pay me money. I was like, just try it. And so sure enough, the next brand, it was I'll never forget this. It was a skincare brand called iMomoko. And she said, hey, do you have a budget to collaborate with me? And they said, sure. If you can include us in 2 videos a month, we will pay you $700 a month for 6 months. And we were like, whoa, like that was so much money. And that's still so much money. And for us we'd only ever been thinking like W-2 income, 9 to 5 income. That's the most we're going to make the same amount every paycheck. This was the first time in our lives where we're like, wow, there's other ways in which you can make money in this world that is kind of uncapped. There's no ceiling to it, right? And so this was what started everything. And so fast forward, basically a decade, we did 550 sponsorships personally, made over $5 million doing it. So it was our primary revenue stream as creators. And so got a ton of experience doing that. And then by about 2015, started thinking, okay, things are going really well for us, but this can't continue forever. There's no way people are going to continue watching us. By that time we had started multiple YouTube channels. And so we were making content together. I quit my full-time job in medical devices in 2014. So this really was kind of the full-time income for our family, all the eggs in the one basket. And so I was like, okay, what can we do? We got the tiger by the tail. What can we do to kind of diversify our income as a family? And so this is when I started Trending Family, which was an influencer marketing agency to help get deals for other creators. And so I said, okay, let me parlay all this experience that we had doing it personally. But now I'm in the boardrooms with these big brands and these big advertisers where they're saying, hey, we don't just want to pay you $5K, April and Justin. We want to spend $1 million now across 200 people. What is the strategy? Like, what platforms should we be on? What are the types of creators that we should be working with? So it's a totally different conversation. And so ran that business for 7 years, paid out millions of dollars to other creators. And so when COVID hit, the business came crumbling down. And so as a lot of, businesses, a lot of creators can probably appreciate who had a really tough time during COVID, so did my business. I had to lay off all my employees. It was like the long, dark night of the soul for me and my family and my business. It was awful. And so I was in this really, really, well, just quick side note. The reason that it crumbled was that our biggest clients were like retail, like food and beverage, and travel and hospitality, which if you think back to the pandemic, what are like the three main things that got shut down right around then? It was that. And so it was terrible. I was in this really low place for quite a while, several months, just, I don't know what the next chapter is going to be. And so I started thinking like, I kind of have this interesting perspective now where I've been a creator for many years doing a bunch of deals, but I also ran this agency and kind of, understand what the brands are saying behind creators' backs and like why they're not hiring them and why they're hiring other people, but not those people. And so I was like, let me just make some YouTube videos, to like kind of scratch this creative itch. Right? Like, how do you negotiate? How do you be on a call with a brand? How do you, what are the words that you can use to actually like make more money and things like that? And so, fast forward 4 years, it led to this really surprising business, which is what I call sponsorship coaching, where I'm not a manager, I'm not an agent. You can't retain me. I teach you, I educate you, and you keep everything, basically. And so that's where we are today.
So do you mainly work with creators then, coaching creators?
So initially I started with my kind of customer persona was like influencers, right? So like bloggers, YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagrammers, people who have built up kind of an audience or a following. And then about a year and a half into it, something really interesting started happening was I started having all these kind of non-traditional creators reach out. So like people who don't call themselves influencers, like, maybe podcasters, bloggers, course creators, community operators, newsletter operators, event planners, all these people who are like, I'm not dancing on TikTok, but I still make money through sponsorships. Can you help me? And so, after this happened enough times, I was like, let me see if I can serve these people as well. And so, really quickly realized that a lot of the things I teach are universal. And so now I serve these kind of two personas, I would say.
Okay. And so food bloggers fall into that as well.
Food bloggers definitely fall into that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that about your journey. And if I had, I didn't retain it. But I just want to point out how awesome it is that you were your wife's cheerleader and you were like, wait a second, you're worth way more than that free curling iron. Come on, let's get you some money that you deserve. I love that. And that's kind of what set everything in motion.
It really did. I mean, the opening dedication in my new book is to my wife, April, for leading the way.
Oh.
Because I wouldn't have known any of this stuff if it wasn't for her.
Oh, I love that. So tell us about your new book, Sponsor Magnet.
Yeah. So Sponsor Magnet is the complete distillation of everything that I know around brand partnerships and how to help you transform your business by getting not just like one-off deals with sponsors, but recurring deals. This is one of the biggest challenges and gripes that I hear with, food bloggers and podcasters and any type of influencers where, sponsorships are great when you can get them, but you can never rely on that income because it's just kind of this one-off thing. And then maybe the brand never talks to you again. And that has been the exact opposite of my wife's and I experience over the years. The vast majority of the deals that we do are these relationships that we built with brands or their advertising agencies where they just continue to come back to us over and over. And, anyone listening to this might be like, oh yeah, that's easy for you to say. You've got zillions of followers or big reach or whatever. And we do not have millions of followers. Yeah. If you added it all up, maybe we were, just over 1 million, but our individual platforms, we were never the people that had the 10 million followers or the hundreds of thousands of views all the time, because that wasn't the product that we were selling. The product that we were selling was professionalism, responsiveness. They knew that the assets that we would deliver would hit every talking point with aplomb. They knew that if brands had to come back to us with revision requests, a new voiceover, hey, can you say this a little bit different? We said, sure, no problem. We didn't say, how dare you violate our creative genius? How dare you? Because again, I ran an agency and I was on the receiving end of a lot of this, where people were just so difficult about something that literally would take like 5 minutes to revise.
Yeah.
And so this mindset of understanding that it's not just about this one deal. It's about how do you become their favorite person to work with, even if you're the more expensive than other people. Constantly, we would do that. When I ran the agency, we would go back and hire people again, even though they were twice as expensive, because we knew we absolutely had to have the content live by a certain date. And we knew that every time we worked with them, they would deliver stuff on time. And so again, brands are valuing lots of different things than you may realize. It's not just about how many sales you generate. It's not just about how many likes you're getting on Instagram or how many impressions you're getting on your blog posts. There's a lot of different things that they value, and these are some of the things I talk about in the book.
Great. I can see this book being extremely helpful for food bloggers. As you know, 2024 was a little bit of a rough year for just, the ad revenue and Google and HCU and so many changes. So I think that sponsored work is going to be way more prevalent this year in the new year. And so, yeah, I think this is great. I'm so glad you're writing this. So when is it being published? I know it's very soon.
Yeah, so the book is out January 21st. You can pre-order it now. I've got tons of amazing bonuses and stuff that comes with it as well. But yeah, I'm so excited for this book to be out in the universe. Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, congratulations. It's a huge
Thank
undertaking.
you.
And it's something that you clearly are super passionate about, and you have so much knowledge. So thank you for writing it. And thank you for coming to share a little teaser, because I think you're going to tease a few things that are in the book, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I know you have something called the sponsorship wheel framework. Would you mind talking us through that?
Sure. So my sponsorship wheel framework it's basically an 8-step process to take a brand all the way from a pitch, which is step 1, to an analysis, which is step 8. So I think a lot of people, when they first get into sponsorships, they are very reactive. So maybe it's a brand that reaches out to you, right? They submit an inquiry on your contact form on your blog or something, and they say, hey, we love your blog, would love to collaborate. How much you charge? Something like this, right? And so the process for most food bloggers is like, okay, yeah, I negotiate. I tell them how much I'm going to charge. They say yes or no. I produce the content if they say yes, and then I, publish it, collect the income, collect the money, et cetera. And so it's this very kind of simplistic process. But when I go through this 8-step process, there's a lot more to it. So yes, of course, step 1 is a pitch. And I think a lot of people think of a pitch as like an outbound activity where you're actually reaching out, you're sliding in a brand's DM, or you're sending a note on their press, in a contact form on their website or whatever. But a pitch, when a brand reaches out to you, you still have to pitch them on why you're the best person for the job, because they didn't just reach out to you in all likelihood. They probably reached out to 20 other food bloggers to say, hey, who's interested, who, has the best idea for how to bring this partnership to life. And so previously you may have been mailing it in when a brand reached out to you, but the pitching process is very, very critical. And so it's about what are you actually saying? And if you are reaching out to a brand, who are you actually sending it to? So that's step 1. Step 2 is negotiate. So there's lots and lots of things that you can do to actually, upsell yourself, where you're not just spitting back a number and being like, sure, it's going to be $1,500 for a blog post and social amplification. You're going to say, hey, here's 5. I know you didn't ask for this, but here's 5 different packages. Hey, did you know that I have a newsletter with, 5,000 of my most engaged audience members on there? Oh, you didn't know that? Great. Here, maybe you should pick package 3 instead, because we can send out the coupon code for your food, your CPG product over here, right? So there's so many different things that you can do. In fact, that's one of my favorite chapters of the book, is all sorts of things you can learn there. Step 3 is contract. This one is terrifying for a lot of food bloggers and creators, which is, it's like, I'm not a lawyer. Aren't lawyers expensive? I probably don't want to hire them, because I'll eat up all my profit if I hire them for like 2 hours to review this contract. And so understanding what are the things that you need to do to protect yourself. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, but there's just this kind of some high level gotchas, that mistakes that we made along the way that I help people avoid. Step 4 is concept. This one is a really, really critical one that not enough creators, influencers, bloggers understand. A lot of times brands won't even ask you for this. They'll hire you. They say, hey, we trust you. Do your thing. It's great. And then you create the content. You send it to them for review. And they're like, this wasn't what we had in mind at all. Right. And you're like, oh, I thought you gave me creative freedom here. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but this happened enough times to my wife and I, where they were like, okay, even if the brand is not asking us for a concept, we're still going to give them one. We're saying, hey, this is what our plan is of like how we're going to do this, and allow them to provide some feedback on that. It's way better at this stage, before you've produced anything, to allow the brand a little bit of input into how this thing is brought to life. And so once you get a green light on that concept, then that's step 5, which is produce. So this is where you're actually generating the content containing the promotion with the sponsor in a way that you're not going off script. So many creators that we hired when I ran the agency, we would get this thing approved, the concept, they'd have an approved kind of talking points, and then they would just go off script. They would do something completely different. They would say something completely different. They would mispronounce the name of the brand. They would illustrate it improperly. They would demonstrate, oh, that's not how you like use the product. Or, so many things, you name it, I've seen it. And so there's a whole checklist in the book of like, how do you actually produce something in a way where you deliver it to the brand and there's no revisions, right? That is like the gold standard. And then step 6 is that process where you are actually submitting it to the brand for, the feedback process, right? Where they're saying, hey, we get, 1-2 rounds of revisions, so to speak, on the blog post or the social media pictures that you generate, the video, whatever. And this is a really difficult moment for a lot of creators, because it's a rude awakening when the brand comes back to them and says, hey, you need to redo this entire thing. This is not good. It's low quality. How do you respond to that? Do you charge them more money? Do you do it for free? Like I walk through in the book, kind of the step-by-step process of how to kind of understand how to navigate those scenarios. How do you emerge from that step where the relationship is actually reinforced rather than there be a bunch of animosity? Step 7 is publish. So, one example here is like, publishing V6 of the asset instead of the approved V7. Because sometimes they're going to like go back and forth a million times, and then you kind of mail it in. Or let's say, you publish the blog post and the hyperlink for the brand's website is not clickable. It's just like, there's no like hyperlink. You can't even click it. Or you put the wrong promo code, or like there's all these things, that like people don't think about, but it's like it could tank the success of the campaign if you're kind of mailing it in. And then the final step is step 8 is analyze, right? And this is where you're not just sending screenshots of your Instagram insights, or you're not just sending screenshots of the demographic from your blog dashboard or whatever. You're actually putting together your own reporting, your own kind of slides of like how you think the campaign went. Hey, here's some comments I got on the blog post, or here's some responses I got to the email when I sent out on my newsletter, or here's some DMs that I got. And this is the big insight, Megan, is you use those insights to pitch the next campaign. Maybe there was, some negative feedback that you actually got where someone said, oh, I tried that product 2 years ago. I didn't like the taste of it, or I didn't, I don't think it's good. It doesn't have good ingredients, right? And that circling that feedback to the brand allows them to say, oh, well, guess what? We actually have a complete new reformulation of this product that happened 6 months ago. Maybe we didn't talk about that enough in the blog post or in the post. Let's actually make that the next iteration of the partnership. Let's talk about how there's a reformulation, et cetera, right? And so this is just an absolute game changer of looking at this process as a wheel rather than this kind of horizontal step-by-step approach. And then you literally never talk to the brand again.
Yeah. And that often happens. I've been there. And I hear other creators talk about that too. It is very common. But okay, 2 words that I kind of pulled out of everything you were saying are proactivity. So being super proactive with your interactions, what you deliver. I love your thing about just analyzing from your perspective and not just relying on what, the stats say. And then also relationships, prioritizing creating a relationship with humans, not just the brand, but the humans behind the brand so that you can continue on.
Yeah, 100%. And I think to your point, I have this theory, given all the huge proliferation of AI, that this massive tidal wave tsunami of I think going to be kind of low quality content that's going to hit all of our feeds in the next 12 to 18 months. I have this theory that we're going to see a flight back to quality, a flight back to human, like human curated, crafted stuff. And I just don't believe this whole thing about AI influencers and, all this AI content. I think maybe there's going to be a portion of the population who is into that type of thing. But I think that, brands and consumers generally, there's just going to be this segment of people who really look for the human touch on stuff. And so I think this is even more important to understand relationship building and networking and understanding that, because that's how you're going to really weather the storm, I think, as a creator.
Yeah, this is one way to do it. I feel like so many things pull us away from relationship building with social media and so many other things. So this is a reminder that you do need to invest in your relationships, and sponsorships can pay off, I think. So you mentioned a little bit ago that you guys didn't have the 200K following when you got started. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is required now? You need to have this huge following in order to work with brands?
Definitely not. So, okay, two things. I hear everyone who's listening to this who said, I reached out to a brand one time and they said, sorry, we only work with people with 10,000 followers or whatever, some minimum threshold. And so maybe you got deflated and just assumed, well, I guess that's every brand's policy. And so I guess I just have to wait until I get to some threshold, something, right? And so I'll totally acknowledge, yes, there are some brands out there who are like that. However, when you are at the outset of your journey, okay, and you are getting, let's say, hundreds of average views per post on whatever platform that you're on, look at it from the brand's perspective. If you were to reach out to them and say, hey, let me do an integrated blog post for you or social media post or something, they're going to look at your platform and they're going to say, you know what, that's really not going to move the needle for us. And so a much more effective pitch when you're at the outset would be to, let's say, for example, do an audit of the brand's social presence. Hey, I'm going to look at their blog. I'm going to look at their social media. I'm going to look, hey, do they have a podcast? Hey, are they on TikTok? Are they, is the content that they're posting kind of low quality across those things? Let me reach out to them and say, hey, I love your brand, but I think you could be telling your brand story in a more compelling way. I would actually love to create some content for you to repurpose on your blog, on your social media, for paid advertising. I can generate this content for you on autopilot, 5 to 10 photos, blog posts. Hey, heck, I'll start a podcast for you. I'll be the host. I will interview my friends. I will interview the VP of marketing from your company, blah, 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 blah. I will do this for you. And oh, by the way, go take a look at my platforms because those serve as my portfolio. So this is a very, very different type of pitch when you're in the beginning. Okay. And then, yes, let's say that you grow a bit. Now you're getting thousands of views or impressions or whatever on your post. Maybe it's a combination of consulting, content for the brand to use that you generate. And then, maybe doing an integration on your platform starts becoming a little bit meaningful. And then, okay, now you're at the far end of the scale and you're getting, tens of thousands of views or hundreds of thousands, whatever. Yeah, the thrust of what you could pitch now is an integration exclusively on your platforms. And so I call this the sponsorship continuum. And so it's very helpful to kind of orient you of wherever I'm at, my pitch might need to change so that I can catch the attention of the brand.
Food bloggers, imagine a retreat where learning, growth, and community come together, designed just for you. Join us at the Eat Blog Talk Spring 2025 retreat happening March 6th through 9th in Minneapolis. This intimate gathering is limited to just 10 spots, so you will enjoy a truly personalized experience. During 3 unforgettable days, you will be immersed in mastermind-style sessions, discussions that will prompt new revenue and traffic streams, and so many connection opportunities. Get ready to dive deep into your business, gain new insights, and build friendships that will fuel your success long after the retreat has ended. Plus, you will indulge in meals prepared by private chef Ryan from Cookery Amendola, sharing truly unforgettable experiences around the table. Reserve your spot now to accelerate your food blog's growth, expand your network, and step into 2025 with a fresh new confidence. Apply today at eblogtalk.com/retreat. So basically focusing on your strengths and highlighting that in a creative way instead of, I feel like the other way is just so old school and maybe not effective anymore. But I love this approach where, what are you good at? What do your platforms show? And what is maybe lacking in the brand that you're looking at?
I think a lot of creators, a lot of bloggers think that brands have everything figured out. Oh, they must have like all these people on their team.
Yep.
They have these agencies. They like, what do they need me for? Little old me. I don't know anything. I'm not an expert in marketing and all this stuff. And what I'm going to say to you is like, BS. Like you have your finger on the pulse of your community. You know, you understand the latest trending sound that's happening on TikTok or Instagram because you live on those platforms. You know what's doing well. Brands are not doing this. They don't have the bandwidth. Oftentimes, especially smaller to medium-sized brands, they don't have the bandwidth to pay attention to this stuff. Imagine, what about this pitch, Megan? What if you went to a brand and said, hey, I will be your extremely online consultant. I will create a Slack room for you. And I will, the moment that I see a sound, a trending thing, like taking off on Instagram Reels or TikTok, I will drop it into the Slack and I'll say, hey, here's the angle that I think that you could insert your brand into the conversation here. And guess what? I'll make the content for you. I'll do it. I could turn this around in 24 hours. It's going to be $5,000 a month for me to be this consultant for you. But don't you think there's a lot of brands who would love to have someone, help them do that? Because again, they don't have the bandwidth to do this internally, a lot of brands. So again, like I love just kind of talking through these creative ideas because there's just an infinite amount of things that you could potentially pitch to a sponsor. Yeah.
So you also mentioned that you have the perspective of the brand side. So what do brands care about?
Again, yes, of course, like having, understanding your social footprint is a factor for sure. Like what are the types of, people that you're reaching? But what's more important than your demographics, Megan, is your psychographics of your audience. So let's talk a bit about what this means. So at the end of the day, brands don't really care about you. I'm sorry for anyone listening. This might be insulting, but let me qualify this. Yeah, of course, you loving the product is great, right? But that's table stakes. That's what everyone says when they want to work with the brand. Oh my God, I love your brand. I've been using it for 3 years. That's what everyone says.
Yeah.
However, what they really care about is that you are the conduit for them to access a big pool of prospective customers, i.e. your audience. That's what they care about at the end of the day. It's not you, it's your audience, right? And so if you can have more, if you can have a richer texture of who's in your audience to tell the story of why they're different. If they're holding up two bloggers side by side, you have identical stacks, but you over here said, hey, I've actually done some surveys. I sent out a survey to my newsletter or in my last blog post, it was a Google form or Typeform or something. And I asked them questions like, hey, what types of jobs do you have? Are you married? Do you have kids? Hey, what types of brands and products and services are you using and loving right now? What problems do you have? What's keeping you up at night? When you get this like deep texture, this tapestry of what is challenging in your audience's life, you may discover something. For example, let's say you're a food blogger and you do this like survey and you realize like, wow, I didn't realize that 40% of the respondents of this survey are homeschooling. I didn't realize that. That's actually really interesting. Maybe I should go out there and forge a partnership with a company like, I don't know, ABC Mouse or something. And you might think, well, I'm a food blogger. Like, how's that relevant? I bet you could probably think of a pretty creative way to integrate a sponsor like that into your content, right? And so that now the pitch shifts from, I love you, please pay me brand to, here's a bunch of people in my audience who already, are interested in learning about your brand. That is a totally different pitch.
Yeah. So I'm adding to my list knowledge. Come in with knowledge, research, in addition to proactivity and relationships. I'm building 100%. A good list here.
100%.
I think that's such a good perspective shift too. It's not always about us. Like we always tend to think it is, and not just from our perspective, but I'm sure people who work for brands think the same. We have to think about, it's just a marketing concept, right? Like what do they want? What do they want at the end of the day? They want you to be a conduit to your audience. And that changes everything.
Can we pull this thread for just another minute? There might be people listening who are still skeptical. They're like, okay, yeah, I get it. But Justin, I don't want to do sponsorships. I'm selling my own stuff. I'm selling my recipe plans. I have a cookbook. I have a course. I have something. I don't want to do sponsorships because I just want to like sell my own stuff. Right. There's this is another crowd of sponsor skeptics that I talk with a lot. And I want to pull this thread about service, because if it really is about your audience, about your customers, there are problems that they have that you're never going to be able to solve with your own products. There's just stuff that you're never going to do. And I call it your PSA, your products, your sponsors, and your alliances. It is actually your job to go out there and figure out ways in which you can serve your audience with these three categories. So yes, of course, if you're selling your own things, products, courses, coaching, recipe plans, whatever, that's great. But your audience just told you that they're having marital issues. Right? That's not something that you're going to create as a food blogger. But what would be really helpful is if you went out there and forged a partnership with BetterHelp. Or you went out and forged a partnership with some brand who helps with this. I'm making up examples here, but you went out there because, again, it's about service. Because guess what? When that person improves their life, improves their marriage, improves their relationships with their children, they're going to look more favorably to you. So the next time that they're feeling like I need a busy weeknight meal ideas, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to buy Megan's meal plan ideas because I just have this trust with her because she introduced me to this. And that last category, the alliances, you better go out there and forge a partnership with your friend who's a coach, who's a marriage and family therapist, or your friend who's, doing whatever. This is an example, but like it is your job as a creator, as a blogger, to forge these types of partnerships. And so again, it's this whole mindset shift around, it's not about you. It's about how you can help your audience improve their lives.
I was thinking about just a family dynamic too. It's kind of similar to a family. Like you do things for your family members that aren't always direct help. Sometimes you have to think outside of your home and your, the things that go on in your house in order to help your family members. So there's a lot of correlation there. And I think a lot of people are parents and spouses, so they can probably think about that. Can you talk about the free stuff a little bit? I know you had your story about your wife and we've all done it. I remember being super excited too in the beginning. I was like, what? They're going to send me a box of potato chips? That's awesome.
Yeah.
But at some point I felt like this just feels icky and a little weird. Like you pointed out to your wife, are you sure you shouldn't be getting paid for that? So what do you feel? I mean, is it okay in the beginning? Is it ever okay?
All right. So a couple of years ago, I got a free wine fridge and I was totally cool with it because I love wine. So let me just clarify here that there's a time and a place. No, let me share a quick story actually. So a few years into our journey, my wife and I, we turned on the TV and saw footage from one of my wife's YouTube video in a TV ad.
What?
And this was from a deal that she had done. I call it a deal that we had done where the brand had offered free product credit. It was like $1,000 or $2,000. It was like a clothing site. And my wife was like, $2,000? That was like a whole new wardrobe for me. Like, hell yeah, let's go. and then they sent over this like agreement, which of course we didn't read because we were idiots. And so when we saw this commercial, we went back to the contract. We're like, did we agree to let the brand do this? Sure enough, right there in black and white, broadcast TV rights. We had signed away that to the brand in exchange for product credit, basically. And so that was a really tough lesson that we had to learn because, there's dangers in accepting free stuff that you may not realize. You may think it's harmless, but there's a lot of these platforms now where you may not realize it, but they're sending you a link to say, hey, just fill out your information here. Fill out your shipping address. We'll send you the free thing. And then just, check these two boxes here that you're agreeing to the terms of this gifting opportunity. And and a lot of people don't open them and read this stuff, but it says in there, you're giving them paid usage rights. You're given in perpetuity, sometimes forever, to use this content however they want. So there's consequences to not really understanding the free product stuff. And so one of the things I talk about in the book, I have a whole section of these scripts. I have 15 scripts in the book where I say, hey, if the brand says this to you, here's what you should say in response to that. So you shouldn't say, oh, I'm only focusing on paid partnerships right now. Let me know if you have a budget, which is what a lot of people say. Mm-hmm. You're actually saying different things. So for example, if the brand is saying, hey, join our affiliate program or join our ambassador program, you'll make 20%, commission, whatever, when you drive sales. sales is a common one. So here's what you say to them. You say, hey, yeah, super excited to, learn more about your affiliate program. Going to check it out. Just out of curiosity, do your affiliates also grant you the rights to repurpose their content for ads? Because that's what I specialize in. Let me know if you'd like me to send over a few investment options for what that might look like. And so, hold on a second here. We're pivoting a little bit here. Maybe the brand had they think to themselves, they're questioning their strategy. No, we're actually not getting the rights to repurpose the content that our affiliates are generating. In fact, we have very little control over the content that the affiliates generate or the ambassadors generate, right? Let's actually talk with Megan, because this is interesting. I never considered this. And so again, now you're differentiating yourself from the 100 other food bloggers that are being like, oh yeah, sure, sounds good, I'll join your affiliate program. And of course, this isn't going to work in every situation. But again, there's so many different ways that brands are going to say, we're not going to pay you. Like, oh, our product is expensive, so that should be compensation enough. Or, oh, how about we do a trial? And if it goes well, maybe we'll consider paying you down the line. There's all these various ways and so instead of tuning all that stuff out, you have to be saying different things. And so this is a lot of what I talk about in the book.
So getting creative with
getting creative
to approach it and your wording.
Yeah. And not getting upset, not getting insulted. I think a lot of people get very up. They have you seen this on X or on TikTok? They go, how dare this brand? They go on this tirade. I'm going to drag this brand. I'm going to show them, like, how dare they do this? And I'm going to tell you, here's another little insider thing I'm going to tell you is that I strongly suggest do not vent publicly on social media.
Oh.
Go vent to your group chat.
Your
private group chat with your friends.
No brainer.
No brand, because brands are watching. Even if it's not that brand. One of the things that we had to do, Megan, when I ran the agency, is we worked with a lot of kind of traditional, very brand friendly, brand safe brands, and they were very averse to any sort of risk. And so one of the exercises that we had to do is we had to go and audit people's platforms to ensure that they were family friendly. And so even if you were spick and span, squeaky clean on Instagram, if you're talking crazy on Twitter, that could still blow back to the brand and there'd be a PR crisis. You've seen people get canceled. Yeah. You've seen the brands get pulled into this. This happened actually, Megan, where we had done a deal with a creator and then maybe a year later they had gotten embroiled in some crazy crisis. PR, they were national news. It was like, influencers gone bad, this type of idea. And then people went into the last 100 posts that this, partner, this influencer had done on Instagram and found the partnership that the brand had done a year ago. And then now they're contacting the brand, their customer service, and they're blowing them up. How dare you? Is this the type of, person that you want to partner with and this type of thing? And so this is a real danger for brands. And so you just have to think twice in terms of how you behave on the internet.
I mean, that's kind of common sense for all of life. I feel like you shouldn't probably go blast people publicly anytime, but I don't understand that at all. How anyone would think that was a great idea. It's rampant though. It's rampant on, especially on TikTok, which is, I again, going back to why I wrote the book, Megan, this is one of the reasons is that the only conversation that I saw happening around brand partnerships was a toxic one. It was like, brands are out to get you. They're trying to screw you. You have to protect yourself. You have to put this coat of armor on when you go into a negotiation because they're trying to screw the little guy or gal. And I've done thousands of deals literally between myself and the agency. And I could count on one hand the number of deals that truly went south. And I just didn't see anyone saying out there on the internet, no, brand deals can be awesome. Sponsorships can be awesome. But again, you have to be professional. You have to be kind, all these things. And so writing the book was as much about introducing this alternative perspective around sponsorships. Yeah, perspective shift. What do you think about working with agents or managers, or do you recommend that we just go on this journey ourselves?
Ooh, okay. I have a very spiky point of view about this one. I might make some people mad. I don't know, maybe.
Ooh, spiky. Let's hear it.
So I believe that 99% of creators, bloggers, influencers should not hire management or representation. There's a lot of different reasons. Chief amongst them is that I think that the financial incentives are misaligned. Let me share a story to hammer home this point. So when I ran the agency, a lot of creators have this perspective that I just want to focus on the creative stuff. That's what I'm best at. I just want to get someone to handle the business details for me and I'll just pay them a cut. 20, 25%, whatever. That seems like the best scenario. And so what they do is they completely check out of the process. They put their manager's email address in their bio for business inquiries. They don't have any, like, they're just kind of checked out left field. They don't know what's happening. So when my agency would reach out, we say, oh, this creator looks good. It would be a perfect fit. We see their manager's email in their bio. We reach out to the manager and say, hey, we'd love to collaborate with your client, basically. And the manager would say, oh yeah, she's probably interested. But hey, are you looking for additional creators to partner with? Because I've also got this roster of like 19 other food bloggers. Are any of these people interesting? And of course, I never did that. I thought that was so unethical because it's like, what happens is a brand who doesn't have those moral qualms, they would say, oh, yeah, those 3 other food bloggers are better and cheaper. I'd actually like to go work with them instead. And so you were the one who sourced the opportunity and you had no idea you just lost the deal because, again, your manager doesn't care where the 20% comes from. They don't care whether it's you or someone else on their roster. And so that is one story that was just like, it's a microcosm of like, there's a lot of unscrupulous people in this industry. And of course, there's some great managers out there. But again, if sponsorships is one of the major ways in which you're deriving revenue as a creator, as a blogger, I think there's no one else that's ever going to care about this stuff more than you do, which is why I think you have to be your own advocate. You have to learn this stuff. What I'm not saying is don't have a team. I have a team. But what I'm saying is it makes way more sense to hire a VA, train them up, hire an ops person, train them up in your methodology. You own that expertise in-house because, again, the brand wants to work with you. They don't want to work with your manager. So if you can get on a 30-minute phone call and just like hash out some ideas, that is such a high ROI, a high return on investment activity for you as a blogger, as a creator. And it's going to lead to these kind of recurring partnerships I was talking about.
Okay. Yeah, because it is easy, right? I know, what do you call the platforms where you can kind of go pick and choose which sponsorship looks like it might be a good fit? What would you call those?
Yeah, so like a brand deal platform, like a marketplace. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear people talk about those all the time. I've never personally used those, but it just seems easy. Like, oh, I can just like click. It's like you're on Amazon just purchasing something. And then, what do you think of those platforms?
So I think every blogger, every creator should be on them, specifically because a lot of brands use that to search for people. They actually use it as like a search engine, basically, of like, I'm going to go out there and try to find creators who would be a good fit for this campaign. Quick anecdote I can share there is that, we get, there was a good several year period where we were being emailed every week about a new platform you should sign up for. It's great, the latest newfangled thing. And I would just be like, sure, sign up. I'm going to sign up. Sounds good, whatever. Kind of annoying, but sure, sign up. And so there was this one platform that we signed up for. Didn't hear anything, no opportunities for like 6 months. And then they sent us a $30,000 opportunity after 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
Because it was like, it was just that campaign we happened to be the perfect fit for. And all the other ones that they had previous to that weren't. And so my perspective is like, be on them all. You do have to be careful, though, because sometimes, again, those predatory terms in the agreements, you're not reading them. You're just clicking a bunch of boxes and not reading it. You do have to be careful. And sometimes they're negotiable. Like a lot of people don't think that they are, but you're not going to lose by saying, hey, yes, I'm interested, but we need to cap the usage rights to 3 months instead of forever or something like that. Like a lot of times brands will be like, okay, like it's never hurts to ask. So I am a fan of being on them, but you just need to protect yourself.
Okay. That's good to know. I was always under the impression that they were not negotiable, that it was more on the side of here are the terms.
A lot aren't. The other gripe that I hear with platforms is that you submit an application, you put all this work together to like make an idea and a pitch and all that, and then they never talk. They don't contact you. They don't say you got it. And so people get jaded from the process. They do it maybe 10 times and then they don't hear back. And so I understand that is can be frustrating. There is a hair that we need to split here about platforms, though, is that sometimes the brand, the person reaching out to you is actually from the platform. The brand has actually hired them and said, hey, they have like this VIP tier where, hey, you pay us $100K and we'll actually handle the campaign for you. This is what the platform is saying. And so the person reaching out to you works at the platform. And so, yes, those are harder to negotiate because they have no incentive to really deal with you. But a lot of times it's actually the brand like the influencer marketing manager directly at the brand. And they're using the kind of self-serve software feature that the brand has to actually reach out to creators. And so don't dismiss these platform inquiries because we've done deals where they were like 5-figure deals where, it was through one of the platforms, but it was actually directly the person from the brand reaching out, just using the software tool to help organize the campaign.
Okay. Good to know. Good education. Thank you.
Yeah.
We've got time for one more point. What do you think is important to cover? Do you want to talk about maybe pricing? I know you have some information on post-campaign reports, the future of creator monetization. Which do you feel like would be
I think that let's talk about reporting because I don't get to talk about it a lot. Everyone wants to talk about the super sexy pricing and negotiation and pitching and all that stuff. But honestly, if you're listening, this is one of the most high value exercises that you can do as a creator. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning of like, not just sending screenshots. Let me drive home why this is so important. So what I say a post-campaign report, what does that mean? So at the end of the campaign, what most people are used to doing is just sending in screenshots to the brand. And maybe the brand was cool with that. They were like, okay, thanks, send your invoice, send your tax paperwork, we'll pay you now. And that's all they asked for. And so you're thinking like, Justin, this seems like a lot of work. But again, going back to this, understanding the qualitative aspects, if they're measuring you against the 5 or 6 or 10 or 50 other people that they worked with, if you're the only person that is submitting this report and saying like, here's how I think the campaign went. Here's how I think there was some like additional opportunities. Here's some things that I could have done better. Having that humility, having that low ego is such a game changer. Here's another thing that's going to be in your post-campaign report. Your testimonial for the brand. You're going to record a 30-second, a 60-second video where it'd be like, oh my gosh, I loved working with your brand. It was so great. Here's my audience loved it for these 3 reasons. Can't wait to work together on the next idea. When they have their all hands marketing meeting talking about this campaign, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to play your video in front of their entire team. And the VP of marketing is going to see that video. And then the next quarter, when they're running their next campaign, they're going to tell the marketing manager, hey, make sure we get Megan, that person who did that video for us. She was good. This is how it works. I'm telling you, like it could be something as simple as that. Just like differentiating yourself, from everyone else that they're working with. Sometimes it's just this simple exercise. I can't tell you how many people have gone through my course or gone through my coaching program who have said that the post-campaign report is gold. Brands will often offer a second campaign from that alone.
The video testimonial is a great idea. Just something short and sweet that makes you stand out. The visual connection too. People remember that, right?
100%. Okay. Yeah,
so
it's a game
very
changer.
Important. Don't neglect the post campaign is your message.
Yep. And okay, last to bookend this. A lot of people are hearing this and they're not going to do it. And you know why they're not going to do it, Megan? It's because they're terrified of asking the brand, hey, how'd it go? Because they're worried the brand is going to say, it sucked. You drove no sales. We hate you now, right? This is what people are terrified. I get it. I get this. I totally understand this fear. Okay, but I'm going to give you, I know you usually ask for a quote. And here's my quote to wrap this up, okay? Nelson Mandela famously said, I never lose. I either win or learn. And this is what you do when you ask the brand this question. You say, hey, how'd it go? They're either going to say, hey, it was awesome. And then now is your turn to like pitch them again for the next campaign. Oh, great to hear it was awesome. Let's work together again, right? Or if they say, well, it was just okay. It like went average, because they're almost never going to say it sucked. They're going to probably say it like went average. And so that's great. That's great info. Okay, great. Like, let's talk about why do you think that is? I have some ideas for why I think, it could have, some improvements I could have made. And that's so much better than sugarcoating it. It's so much better than being like, it was awesome. It was great. The brand is going to appreciate the fact that you're being objective about this because they're being measured objectively by their boss or their client. If it's an agency, you better believe it. So if you can be objective about it, it makes their job so much easier. It makes it seem so much, it makes you seem so much more credible. And so I love this quote because if you can have that perspective with, during these relationships with brands, it's going to totally set you apart.
And don't you respect people more when they are forthcoming about just like, this is scary, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. What did you think? I love when people do that. I'm always like, whoa, that had to be really hard to say. But yeah, there's some good messages there. Thank you so much for that. And thanks for ending with such a great quote. What a great conversation. Justin, will you please tell us again where we can find your book and get any other information about you?
100%. So sponsormagnet.com is the book. And as I mentioned, with the bonus that when you purchase the book, I have this sponsorship tracker template that I've created in Notion. It's like a super sophisticated template and has formulas for like when you should follow up with brands. And it's like it's always something I wanted to bring to life. And I've never offered it outside of my course. And so I'm actually offering it as a free bonus when you purchase the book. I've got all those scripts that I was talking about. I've got tons of checklists, like you name it. There's lots of juicy stuff in there. So yeah, sponsormagnet.com.
So if you are looking to expand your revenue streams in 2025, which I think a lot of us are, this is definitely a good avenue to go. And again, thank you for creating such a valuable resource for us.
100%. Thanks for having me, Megan.
Thanks, Justin. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Eat Blog Talk. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you posted it to your social media feed and stories. I will see you next time.